Risk reward is really cool. Huge fan of risk reward. It doesn't work some of the time or a lot of the time, and it completely backfires. But how about two guys who bet? Here's the way to put it. They bet everything on themselves. And it's so interesting. I don't think it's the new normal in the NFL because the money is so... Today is evidence, by the way. Today is very much evidence. Today is evidence of two things. One, people yelled at me and laughed at me when I said this 2-week period of free agency is the most important 2 weeks of the NFL season because you define and redefine entire rosters for the next few years. In good ways and in bad ways. That's been proven true today, just this past week. The league is going to look completely different. The teams will look completely different. And then also the other part is that the money is bigger than ever before. But that said, so I don't know that every guy is going to bet on themselves and roll the dice on themselves and have it work out, because a lot of times they don't have to. But two guys that went all in. This is what the college game doesn't have in the way that it operates in paying players. Earning the big reward by taking a complete risk. Granted, let's make sure we have some context here. I know someone's going to say, oh, really? They're really risking a lot, Jeff. They can pay their bills. Their kids are set. True. It's very true. Real risk and real pressure is when you can't pay your bills. Got it. But this is kind of an unheard of way of going about new contracts in the NFL. People want security, people want guarantees, and meet two guys who did just the opposite. Baker Mayfield's football career was just about, and it was on the brink, it was almost on life support. It was just about left to die. His NFL career had been defined by injuries and bad organizations and arguments with bad organizations. He followed, it's easy to say, generations of quarterbacks who entered what is, I guess, the best term would be the dark hole of quarterback play. The Cleveland Browns. That's where quarterbacks go to die. It's almost as if you hear your name called, well, that's the end of me, because it's not going to work. It doesn't work. He's drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and just like everybody before him, he couldn't save them. They were awful. It was a bad relationship. It's a toxic relationship practically every time a quarterback shows up in Cleveland. It doesn't work. Being drafted with the first pick by the Browns isn't just a tough job with a ton of pressure. It is historically a career killer, and it was well on its way to killing his career. He mostly flamed out in Cleveland, then goes to Carolina, then he went to the Rams for a short stint. He was football's version of being left for dead, with one of the worst rosters in the NFL, an impossible job following. Think about this for Baker Mayfield when he goes to Tampa Bay. He's not just at the end of his career, well, possibly at the end of his career. Nothing is working. He can't get a big deal anywhere else. And he's also following Tom Brady. He has to answer for Tom Brady. Oh, yeah, and Brady won a Super Bowl. Not only that, he goes to Tampa Bay for a 1-year deal, follows Tom Brady, answers about Tom Brady. He has a brand new coach who's a defensive coach. It's a terrible roster in Tampa Bay. It feels and looks like the guy is at the very end, and it's like a Cleveland Browns near the ocean. He had a 1-year deal with Tampa Bay. One more flameout, and he's relegated to backup status for the rest of his fading football career. That was that close. He was on his way to being a quarterback bust. Instead, the guy rolled the dice and won. He went to Tampa Bay on a 1-year contract. Now, again, for the average person, hey, man, $4 million, take home a little less than half of that, I guess. But everybody would take it, of course. But in football terms, particularly when you've been the first pick in the draft, man, it's kind of nearing the end when you're at that point. So he takes a one-year deal, knowing he has one shot to save his career. How about this bet? You got 1 year to save your football career. Pretty much 1 year to save your football career. Otherwise, at best, you're wearing a hat and holding a clipboard. He passes for more than 4,000 yards. He has 28 touchdowns. In Week 15, Tampa Bay, not a very good team, goes to Green Bay. He puts up a perfect passing number. They beat the Packers in Green Bay. He then turns around and beats the Eagles, dysfunctional Eagles, routed the dysfunctional Eagles in round 1 of the playoffs, passes for, I think, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He went on the road and took the Lions to the very end in round 2 of the playoffs, and he's named NFL Comeback Player of the Year. All this betting on a 1-year contract, or else you go to the sidelines, and that's where you die as a football player. How'd that bet turn out? How'd that one work out? You talk about rolling the dice football-wise. He just got a $96 million raise. That's the way to look at it. He got a $96 million raise on that bet. He just agreed to a 3-year, $100 million deal with Tampa Bay. And like I tell my kids, or any one of you, you should only have to make $100 million once in your life. Really, you'll probably have to make $4 million once in your life, but $100 million will do it. $50 million of it is guaranteed. How about that bet? Bet number 2 that works out. Dalton Schultz, I don't even know if any of you know who that is, wasn't a star coming out of college. He wasn't thought to be a star in the NFL. But he was on his way to becoming a star in Dallas. He was, at the very end, one of Dak Prescott's, if not Dak Prescott's favorite target. Most of us didn't know much about Dalton Schultz, but all of a sudden the entire league looked around and goes, man, that guy is good. He's all over the place. In his last year with Dallas, he was their most dangerous target. Dallas then, right? This is Dallas loaded on offense, seemingly, some of us believed, going somewhere in the playoffs, seemingly a potential Super Bowl team. Here they got this new tight end that came out of nowhere, and the guy is he's a star already. Dallas offers him a 3-year deal, and he didn't just turn them down. He did, but not only that, he did the unthinkable. He said, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Thanks, but no thanks. Remember, he would have been playing with the guy that finished second in the MVP voting this past season, an offense that led the league in total offense. That would have been his team. He turned him down. He went to Houston on a 1-year deal. Baker Mayfield bet the house on a 1-year deal. Turned it into a $96 million raise. Dalton Schultz, I mean, this is not just betting the house, man. This is betting the house, the block, the cars, the dog, and everything. He turns Dallas down to take a 1-year contract with the Houston Texans. Now, that is, I call it shockingly stupid. That was a Texans team, a pitiful franchise, a joke of a franchise, a joke of an offense. A Texans team that had no coach. At the time, they didn't have a coach. They had burned through, 3 coaches in 5 years. They're a terrible offensive team, a terrible organization. The Texans had been mentioned as one of the worst, easily one of the worst 3 teams in the NFL over the past 4 to 5 years. He took a 1-year deal with them, and nobody had any idea who he was going to catch passes from. No clue. The franchise had become a joke. The offense was worse than that. It was a crazy move. The move made no sense whatsoever. He bet on a 1-year deal. He completely rolled the dice. He had 60 catches for the Texans last year. Dalton Schultz just signed a 3-year contract for $36 million with $24 million guaranteed. He is now a rising star on a team with a coach who's a rising star, on a team with a defensive end who's a rising star, and oh, by the way, he's got a future rock star at quarterback. And he was crazy enough to take the risk. 1-year deal. Now you get to play with C.J. Stroud, and the rest is probably offensive history. And you're rich. And somehow, some way, you made the right move. That's football version of rolling the dice and taking full risk reward.